everyone, welcome back to my second episode of the recaps. This is reality tea with Holly T. I'm going to start doing more recaps, but I just had to start with Vanderpump Rules. Last week I did the finale. Today I'm doing reunion part 1. So off the bat, my episode rating is 10 out of 10. It was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And I'm just so it's so cool to be watching. Finally, people can see that Vanderpump Rules is really worth watching. I've been watching it on and off for 10 years, mostly on. I didn't watch season 6, season 7. I went back and watched it during COVID. But something I love about Vanderpump Rules is just so real. Somebody that has been working in restaurants, that did work in restaurants, especially at that time, I was like, it's so true. So much drama happens. If you ever worked in a restaurant, so much drama happens, and it's just like you wish people could see the drama unfold, and Vanderpump Rules gives us that chance. So obviously we are now, they say, about 3 weeks into finding out about Rachel and Tom Sandoval's affair. Honestly, I'm gonna tell you guys this, I always felt like something was off. Then when I heard the open relationship things, rumors, I was like, oh, okay, well, if Ariana's okay with it. But I would see Rachel on Tom Sandoval's shoulder, and I would see certain things a long time ago, I'd say last year, when they actually were airing the last season. I would think, this is very strange. Why is this happening between them? Even Sandoval paying for James's engagement to Rachel, I just thought it was weird. But also, a lot of things happen in LA that I think is very weird. So I've never really been an LA person, and I just always felt like an outsider living there, and because of situations and people like this. So it's been 3 weeks. I'll get to the episode, but first I just want to say is I give it 10 out of 10. Absolute 10 out of 10. Really, really good. So let's start with the first scene. The first scene is they're all getting ready, and we first go to the separate sit down and Andy has. I wish they would have shown they had a special, a 1 hour. Maybe they're still going to do that, a 1 hour per person special, kind of like they do with when ABC does their 2020 interviews, that kind of thing. I thought it was going to be like that. I will say, people say what they want about Andy. I met him, as I said before, he used to come to a restaurant I worked at in Tribeca, a very famous restaurant. And he was really sweet. I say this all the time. I met at that restaurant super A-listers used to come in, super A-list, the producers, directors, actresses, actors. I never got starstruck. I only ever got starstruck for Andy Cohen. I think in my life I've only ever been starstruck for Andy Cohen. All my colleagues were like, Andy Cohen? I was like, yes, I love him. Because of the Real Housewives and Vanderpump Rules. So I will say that he has he's really good at his job, and he works a lot. I think a lot of people drag on him, they call him all kinds of things, and we're not perfect people. I think Andy does a great job. He is a Gemini. Geminis are really great at finding out the truth from people, because they love to ask people questions, and I think he did a great job asking them these questions. So I think he did a better job than Call Her Daddy. I saw the Call Her Daddy interview with Ariana, and Ariana has a lot of depth. She's just I'm rooting for her. I think she's a wonderful, I just feel like she is a cool person, even though she has her flaws. I think that all of us do. It's the point of life. We're supposed to work on them. But there's something about her that's just very endearing and very captivating and has so much depth and character. So she made the interview more so than he did. Than she did. Alex Cooper did. Okay, so let's get into this. The separate sit down with Andy and Tom, and he says he's the most hated person to Tom and television right now. He says, yeah, but it's weird. I feel like Tom is kind of happy about it, happy in a weird way. He won't show that he's happy. You can see he's like happy that so many people notice him. They cut to Ariana, and Ariana says she's doing better than she was before since finding out. They explain how they deal with each other, like one person comes in, one person goes out, and there's a person like a mediator in the middle. I can only imagine what it's like. Honestly, if I had a friend going through something like this, I would definitely be there helping them move and stuff like that, because it's a tough situation to be in. I've only ever been in a similar situation once, and as soon as I had a plan, I pulled a Lala. And if you don't know what Lala is, she escaped, and I escaped too. So Ariana talks about the lame apology she got from Rachel, which is via text message. I forgot exactly what the text message says, but it was very vague and just forced and lacked empathy. It seemed very fake. So Annie asks Tom but when it all started, and he goes into details. He says after there was that night, that bros night, the Mandarin, and which I think he's lying, honestly. So I believe the affair started when Rachel was still with James. Honestly, I really do. Because go back and watch past seasons, and you'll see the interactions. I've always thought something is up with those two. Always. I've been like a Lala, like, something's off. So Ariana explains the deceit from Rachel, and that she couldn't imagine doing that to a friend. And I totally agree. Honestly, I'm going to be honest with you guys. When I was in high school, I had this guy best friend, and we were like dating kind of, but I moved to a different country. So while he was in a different country, he started dating somebody else. And when I came back, we started hooking up. And so I knew her. She was an acquaintance. She wasn't a good friend, but he was like my really, really good friend, you know? And I felt so bad about it, and I ended up telling her. In fact, I forgot. I think she ended up finding out. Anyways, long story short, we've all messed up. But I think the level of this kind of deceit, firstly, the fact that they're all grown, they're supposed to be grown, and when you're young, you do stupid things, when you're young, you're like, and you learn from them, hopefully. But if you're 40 and doing something like this, that is very concerning. And for so long, for 7 months at least, they say, but I think longer, to a close friend, it's another level of, I don't know what the word is. Anyway, so Tom explains his side. Says he became like Ariana's gay best friend. He completely, you can tell if you've ever been in a relationship. I'm not saying he's a narcissist, but he reminds me definitely of narcissistic traits. If you've ever been with somebody who likes to gaslight you, not take accountability, this is classic. They'll manipulate the truth to seem like they are doing you a favor by screwing you over and by hurting you. And that's like one of the telltale signs. And I agree with Lala when she said that he's a dangerous person. He is. If you've been in a relationship with someone like this, they are dangerous, no matter what anybody says. So they jump to the cast getting ready for the reunion, and James sprays on his hairspread. Can I just tell you guys, I love James so much. I've always loved James. The beginning I was kind of like, what's going on here? But I honestly feel like Kristen was using him. Especially, I always feel like the person in the relationship that's older, whether it's a woman or man, the person who is the older one should know better. Especially, Kristen was 10 years older than James, and a 21-year-old. When you think back and you were 21, yeah, he wasn't an angel, he wasn't perfect. But when you're 21, I mean, things I was doing when I was 21, oh my gosh, I was a mess, So I'm not saying he's completely free or void of any responsibility, but I also think Kristen influenced him way more than we realize. So LVP walks in and says the truth is going to come out. Like, she walks onto the set and she says the truth's going to come out. I'm really starting to see LVP in a different light. I used to go back and forth about her. I've always watched Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and I used to always go back and forth about her, like, especially, I've seen definitely her manipulative nature. There was a season, I think it was season 5 of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, where I really started to see she was using Brandy a lot to play for her. And I think she uses certain people who are not liked to do her dirty work, and then she'll defend them. Like, we know Brandy is not a good person. We know Brandy is completely out for herself. She'll lie, she'll do anything to stay on camera. And LVP defended her for a very long time until she did it to her. Never mind the fact that she was completely lying about Kim, lying about other people. So I see that about her, and I really don't like people like that. So they get started, and Andy mentions the restraining order and that Sheena and Rachel can't be in the same building. So Rachel is in a trailer, and they keep cutting back and forth to Rachel watching the reunion on a trailer on the TV. So everyone speaks about how they feel. Schwartz, about like the reunion. Schwartz seems very jumpy, like very, very jumpy. He seems like oh my gosh, it's really funny to watch. So off the bat, they get right into the affair, and it was right, and Andy says it was right under everybody's noses. They go back to like different clips of what signs there were. Tom Sandoval starts crying, and Ariana, James, Lala, and Katie start telling him to stop crying. Andy says to let him speak. He speaks, and it seems empty and very lackluster. Like, you can just tell it's all rehearsed. He probably had a script that he remembered. And remember, guys, these are failed actors. They remember scripts. I'm not great at remembering scripts. Oh my gosh, I'm the worst. When I had to do the yoga teacher training, I'd forget like the script because you're supposed to write off a script. You're supposed to remember off a script, but I'm the worst at scripts. I can never do that. I can never remember a script of what I want to say to somebody and say it. But they're actors, so they are used to doing that. They talk about living in the same house, and Ariana says that Tom didn't want to cooperate in letting him know when he was leaving and going in the beginning, coming and leaving, but now he does. Like, now there's somebody that mediates the house. And Lala compares Tom to Randall, her ex-husband. Then LVP defends Sandoval. What is wrong with LVP? I really am starting to see what the cast did about. I'm really starting to see, like, Sniper from the Side. You know, Erica Jane used to say that about Lisa Vanderpump. Sniper from the Side, especially season 5 through season 7. Go back and watch. If you don't watch Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, please stop watching it. Start. I don't know if I'm going to watch the season. I feel like I might have to because I just started this podcast, but I'm not into Erica Jane. I'm not into Crystal. I'm not into Dorit. So we're going to have to see what happens. Ariana says that Tom, is at fault in the relationship because he slept with other people, and LVP defends him again. Tom says they became distant. Honestly, I fundamentally think they are different people at heart. She has character and he doesn't. I don't know if you guys see that, but I strongly feel like she has character, you know? And they've grown so apart. Fundamentally, they're completely different people. I said that in my last week's episode too. My recap. I just see that they're the kind of couple. But I think because he manipulated her, he gaslighted her, and he used her. He definitely used her. And I think a lot of it was financial gain. So they mentioned the intimacy issues and him using that as an excuse. Sheena mentions that Lala went to her in January and said she believes something's going on. So January of this year. Tom then makes up excuses for why he did it. Again, I'm being reminded of my ex, and his lack of willingness to take accountability. I definitely had an ex like that. I spoke about it last week. That every time I brought something to the table, he'd always blame everybody else but himself. Never, ever, ever say sorry. And I'm also wondering, why does LVP keep interjecting? Like, she keeps interjecting. It's very strange. I don't know if you guys find it strange, but it's just like, firstly, I don't know why she was there. Secondly, why is she interjecting? It's like she wants to control the narrative of making the Toms look like good people when they really are not. Tom Schwartz and Tom Sandoval are not good people, plain and simple, hands down. Then Tom mentions the past, and I can't stand people who keep bringing up the past like it's a get out of jail free card. He keeps being like, oh, well, you did this 10 years ago, and it's just like, that doesn't matter, you know? And the same ex I had would do the same thing. If I said something that recent, well, you hurt my feelings, but no. And if it's not going to be used for the present, bring it up then. If you're going to bring it up later, don't bring it up when somebody else brings something up about you. Like, it just doesn't work like that. So James goes up to Sandoval and he wants to fight. Oh my gosh. James. As an Aquarius, as a fellow Aquarius, I understand James so much. And I said last week, we need to get even. However we get even, we're going to get even. But James wants to fight Tom. Schwartz keeps looking over at Katie and like making remarks, and I really feel like Schwartz is not over Katie. I told my friend this, and I said that if Katie doesn't find somebody else in the next 2 years, she's gonna end up back with him. I'm telling you. I'm 100% telling you. So Andy asks why not come clean to Sandoval, and he keeps talking nonsense. He makes it seem like he was looking out for Ariana, and it doesn't seem true. Like, it really doesn't. Like, the lies he makes up in his head, they don't. It just makes absolutely no sense, you know. Then Schwartz says he found out about the affair in late August, and then everybody's like, well, especially Sandoval, it's like, what? What do you mean late August? And he's like, well, yeah, it was late August, and you could tell Schwartz is completely lying. Both of them are lying, but you can tell, like Ariana said, they didn't get their lies together. Oh, maybe it was Lalo who said that. But then Sandoval says that they told Schwartz in January of this year, so 2023. They go back to a clip when Schwartz made an insensitive joke about Rachel stealing people's men, which is after he supposedly knew, after he admits he knew. So how inappropriate, you know, to make that kind of joke. And that's why I really don't like Schwartz. People like Schwartz are the same as Sandoval, but to me sometimes they're worse because they act like all innocent, but they're just the same gaslighter, just the same person. And Jax was so right. Jax said the Toms are worse than I am, but they hide behind me and what I do. And you know, Schwartz is a typical Libra I talked about last week. Libras love, you know, there's that phrase like to play the hand. There's a particular phrase, I can't remember exactly what it says, but it's like loves to start something and then hide your hand, you know. And that's typical. My experience with a lot of Libras has been that they'll start the drama, then they'll disappear and act like nothing happened. And it's like, you are the drama. So LVP also includes herself again. I don't understand why she's so involved. Then they mention the similarities of the past with Sandoval and Kristen Dute. Is it Dute or Doughty? It has an accent on the E, so I'm guessing Dute, because Dute is French. But, you know, c'est la vie. And how they started. Like, Ariana and Tom started with Kristen calling out Sandoval. And you know, it's so funny, like, back in the past, this was 10 years ago, and I remember, so crazy that I remember exactly where I was. I was in my New York apartment, like, watching on my TV. I still had a cable TV, because I had cable, and I was watching it on my TV, and I just remember, like, thinking, wow, Sandoval made Kristen really look crazy. He really did. I believed Miami Girl, but I believed Sandoval over Kristen, 100%. She wasn't perfect. I think they were actually similar, but now I think Kristen has done healing and is a lot better person than she was back then. So they go back to Miami Girl, whoever believed. Ariana explains why she defended Sandoval all the time. And as much as I am rooting for Ariana, and I like her through the TV screen, I really do not like that she defended Tom about this. Because when you defend a person's mistake and you lie for them, you are co-signing any future lies they do to you. And I've seen that happen, not in my life, but I've seen it happen in friends' lives of mine. And I've just seen some friends when they like co-sign other friends' lives or co-sign their partner's lives, they often end up lying again, this person, and you stood up for them when they lied, so why not do it again? So Andy mentions all the breakups this year. Katie explains her and Schwartz's breakup, and she says that she felt like he put everything first, except for her. I've been there before. It's not a nice position to be in. And you can tell that Schwartz is uncomfortable talking about their relationship. I mean, I wonder if Schwartz has had therapy, honestly, because I just feel like he needs it. Like, I don't want to judge people based on what they need and so forth. I don't like to push that on people. But he has a lot of bad habits, a lot of things he needs to heal. It's just very apparent. He has habits that he needs to heal. So they mentioned the no friend hookup rule, and which he broke with Rachel when they kissed at Sheena's wedding. Schwartz tries to justify him kissing Rachel, and he mentions how they have all cheated on each other. He asks the difference now, and Lala says it's the close friend issue, and I totally agree. It's, that kind of betrayal. I mentioned my story earlier about how I was hooking up with this guy that had a girlfriend. Like, I'm sure, and I've taken accountability for my behavior. I said sorry to her, haven't done it again. Like, that's really taking accountability. If you apologize, you say why, and you don't do it again. You know what I'm saying? But it just seems very like they don't seem like they're taking accountability, and the betrayal is just on so many levels. It's the close friend issue. It's the 7-month issue. It's literally when she was in the same house. So then they touch on who Katie and Schwartz are dating now. They talk about the alleged double dates with Schwartz, Joe, Sandoval, and Rachel. Joe was Kristen's former best friend and started dating Schwartz, and apparently she moved in with Schwartz. It's just all a mess. So Andy speaks about Schwartz and Sandy's not having opened and when it was supposed to, and he mentions what a great idea. He actually mentions a great idea, and he says that why didn't they open the bar first, which is such a good idea, like to open the bar while they're getting the kitchen ready. I've opened, not as an owner, but as an employee, 3 restaurants, and I agree with that. Usually, the kitchen is first. It's usually like liquor permits and stuff that is last. So I agree with what Andy's saying. Andy does have some shares in a few restaurants in New York, so I'm sure he knows about that. So it's a great idea. And then LVP defends them. She keeps interjecting and defending them, and I just feel like she enables them, And I just wonder why. But then I'm reminded of when she used to defend Brandy, when Brandy was clearly in the wrong. So for once, I agree with LVP and her saying that a restaurant shouldn't break a relationship up when they talk about it being like the big weight that broke up Katie and Schwartz. They mentioned something about her and the success of the merch selling their merch, that has been able to afford them to open up with the financial costs that they need. They got the Schwartz, they look like the camera, Wendy Williams used to say, shady cameraman. So, shady cameraman goes to Schwartz and Sandoval, and they are trying to hide how miserable, upset, and resentful they are that these women that they're no longer in relationships with are doing way better than they are. They were clearly the issue. So Annie asked Gina about her and Lala getting closer this year, because if you remember season 9, they were not so close.